Hi everyone, I'm Jo Lewin from Booktopia, and tonight I'm joined by two very special guests. So today we have author, prison officer, and perhaps Australia's best big sister, Hilde Hinton. Welcome, Hilde.
Thanks for having me.
And we're also joined by reformed actor, ubiquitous voice-over artist, and celebrity charity unicyclist, Samuel Johnson. Welcome, Sam.
Thank you for having me.
So this evening we're here to talk about your book, Heroes Next Door. Look at that. That is a perler. Tell me a little bit about the book and tell the viewers at home a little bit about the book.
Do you want to go first, Hilde, or do you want me to?
You go first, darling.
Okay.
Isn't that sweet?
In simple terms, this is a celebration of real heroes. There's a lot of false prophets around, and in a world of superheroes and where everything's kind of gone large, we wanted to focus on. Well, first we asked ourselves what a real hero is, and I think we kind of narrowed it down to what we think it is anyway. Is somebody who chooses to respond positively in the face of adversity, somebody who tries to ease the path of others when the shit hits the fan. And also we thought we'd focus on the unsung type, the people that don't talk about it, the heroes in the shadows, if you like. We concluded that there are plenty of these people around, and that we walk past them every day on the streets, and they're really important people doing really significant things, and their stories need to be told, especially when everything else on the surface in terms of the world seems to be such a shit show.
Yeah, fascinating. That's really interesting. And how did you I guess come up with the idea for Heroes Next Door?
It sort of morphed into a book, because what we were doing is we were out on the road fundraising for our charity Love Your Sister. Mm-hmm. So we're just going town to town, fundraiser to fundraiser, community events. And while we were out doing that, in all the downtime, I was just walking the streets, talking to people, asking them about their lives, and they told me. So it started like that, and I just wanted to portray these people's life stories and what they were doing to give back to the community. People who thought their lives were small but weren't, because they were making a significant difference to others. And I'd come back after going for these walks and meeting these people and sit there and write these stories. And so that's sort of how it was born. And I started reading them out to the road crew of an evening, and they were just as inspired as I'd been by these amazing people doing what they thought were small things, but were really making other people's lives either easier or putting smiles on their faces. And that's sort of how it started.
That's lovely. So even though this is a book that is so timely for 2020 and things that people need through lockdown, it sounds like this was something that you guys were working on behind the scenes for quite a long time.
It has. How long has it been since you first started doing that? How long's it been, Hilde?
14 months.
Yeah. So it's weird to think that we've come so far in 14 months, because it feels like such a fresh kind of thing that we experienced. I mean, it's one of the most surprising things that's ever happened to me, is watching what happened to Hilde out there on the road. It was something special was occurring, and I quickly kind of dubbed her a hero spotter or a hero magnet, and I became intrigued with how she was doing it. because I had visited 1,100 communities in the last 7 years before Hilda even came along properly. And there was an element of me going, well, how did I miss all these people? I mean, I was inspired on the daily by the people that I came across on a day-to-day level, but I wasn't extracting their stories from them the way Hilda was. So I became immediately intrigued and very, very keen to find out more about her process and what she was doing and how she was coming back with such rich stories every time. You know, it's like it was almost like she wasn't missing. Every time she went out, she'd meet someone who inspired her, and then she'd come back to camp and inspire us in turn by sharing their story. So something special was occurring, and we never thought it would be a book. We were just going with it, and I ended up, as she started kind of publishing these stories on social, and the response was just huge, and we knew that we were inspired by them. So I basically tried to hijack her process. I was like, man, I want to know what you're doing. What the fuck are you doing? How are you doing this?
And what's the secret? What was the secret? What's the special sauce?
Well, Hilda taught me many things. But she taught me to look for the unassuming person in the room. Yeah. To look for the person not saying much. To look for the type of person that looks into your eyes when you have an exchange with them. To look for the people without tabs on themselves, who are comfortable in their surroundings, careful with their opinions, and have kind lines on their face.
That's amazing.
So she gave me the blueprint. Yeah. I started kind of, going into the hero spotting business, and then I begged her to let me start writing as well. And the book just happened. It wasn't. Yeah. There wasn't some marketing team there going, oh well, we need good news stories because it's a COVID year.
It's just a happy accident that we all really.
Yeah. That's why this project feels so special to us, is because it was completely organic, and it was the whole time. It's been a very true process. We haven't tried to exploit it commercially. We've just tried to honor these people and to shine the light on them. Yeah. And if proceeds from the sales of this book can go to cancer research, then it's a win-win. We're highlighting these real unsung heroes in the shadows and reminding each other that what, we are surrounded by good things as well as shit things, and we're raising money for research. And for Hilda and I, we're looking outward instead of talking about ourselves. So so that's fun too.
So I'm fascinated, Hilda. You've passed on this hero spotting superpower to Sam. But how did you learn it? Where did it come from?
Well, it just started when I was sitting down by a lake one morning, because while we were out fundraising, I wanted to find time in between all the things to see the spots, because I was out of my comfort zone. I was traveling the country. I wasn't just at home doing family and work. And so I always made sure I got up super early and went to bed super late, and went to find the good spots and see the beautiful things. And when you're out there trying to find the beautiful things, beautiful people are out there trying to find them too. And, they'd just be walking their dog or looking a certain way at the sun. It started with old man Max, who I met down a river walking his dog. And I ended up within 10 minutes, I was at his place having a cup of tea. And I got his life story. And I remember in the middle of that, I actually got my note paper and pen out and started writing.
That's so nice.
Yeah, and he said, what are you doing? And I said, well, I'm writing this down. And it just sort of happened organically from there, and on it went.
And did he make it into the book?
Hey?
Did he make it into the book?
He's in the acknowledgements, a brief version of his story. I mean, not everybody can be in the book, but he's definitely acknowledged, because at that point I didn't really know what I was looking for. Yeah. And I got a fairly brief, sort of story, and we've fine-tuned over the time. And yeah, he's very proudly in the acknowledgements. Yeah.
Amazing. So you've got 20 or so heroes in your book.
More like 40, I think.
40. Amazing. Yeah. How many did you have to leave out?
Oh dear.
And how did you choose?
That's obviously one of the hardest parts is kind of working out who goes in and who stays out. Everyone who didn't find a spot in this one is well deserving of a spot in both this one or the next one. No hero was more deserving than another, but we eventually had to whittle things down according to certain criteria. Some of our heroes were a bit too well known.
Right.
And if they had too many accolades or were too publicly recognised, they didn't meet our criteria of being quiet and unsung, and those people that are kind of those anonymous heroes. So that's an example. That's an example of a situation where that might preclude someone.
Yeah. Sure.
But yeah, it was awkward. It was like, you know, I mean, it's obviously we develop really intense relationships with these people.
Oh.
But we tell them at the start, you know, we can't. We want to tell your story and we'll write your story, but whether it's published is ultimately not up to us.
Yeah. And did you have some disagreements about who was in and who was out?
I think our disagreements were more based on the writing, the style choices, kind of, like when it got tense or when it got, when the creative process was at its most robust. It wasn't really about what to include or what not to. It was more about drilling into the stories and the characters themselves and standing up for them in various ways.
And look, stylistically, I think that the language you guys have used through the book is so warm and so Australian. I think I wrote something down that the Christmas cactus has grown like the clappers. I love it.
Yeah.
Aussie as.
Yeah, I mean, they're inherently Australian stories. We do have our own culture and our own language, and we wanted to own it and represent our people in the way they sort of represented themselves to us.
And I think also we didn't want to be too literary because we wanted to write it in their voices.
Yeah.
If we had have tried to kind of wax lyrical or maybe get too writery about it, we'd kind of be removing ourselves from them and the way they told their stories as well. So we didn't deliberately set out to write it in an informal way.
Yeah.
But we didn't want the writing to become more important than the subjects.
Sure. Do you guys have a favourite hero in the book?
I have. You can't play favourites, obviously, but I mean, I have stories that, you know, where in speaking to that particular person, I cried way more than the others.
Yeah,
I've got ones that made me more sad. I've got ones that made me more inspired, and I've established bonds with some families where, you know, there's barbecues and Christmases together now. So
that's lovely.
Yeah, like one family in particular, I'll be delivering this to them personally, and we're having a barbecue around Christmas time when I get back to Victoria. So I would love to be able to do that for all of them, obviously, but certainly you become more attached to some. I know that the ones I became attached to, kind of perhaps I got too involved. Those ones were the ones that hit me personally, like people who had gone through, you know, stuff that I relate to, you know.
Yeah, things that are close to your own stories.
Yeah, and that happened to me too. I mean, they're all different themes, and that was part of the process of whittling down what goes in the book. It was also about having a complete cross section. Yeah, you know, whether there are sick people, there's a suicide, there's a policeman where we don't think about what they do when they're pulling us over to give us a ticket. You know, the sheer variety of them, but you know, like Sam. I mean, your heart gets broken. You laugh your guts up. Yeah. You know, the extremities of emotions with each and every story and each and every person who's just done their best to make the people around them have a better life.
And I love the way some of the stories aren't even, they're almost about just conquering your own demons. There's that beautiful story about the woman who suffers from alcoholism and she loses her children, and it's all her, it's her struggle against, it's her own fight.
Yeah, and just sheer grit to crawl her way back to a place where she felt comfortable in the world. And that in and of itself you know, should be lauded.
And also the heroism that we find in small acts of kindness. I really love Christmas Cactus because, you know, would you normally think of a person like that as a hero? I mean, we do. I mean, here's this neighbour that, you know, that hears about, you know, a family's loss and delivers a plant in that same month to their neighbour in recognition of their loss for 22 years in a row. You know, I mean, it's, you know, these kind of small acts of kindness that end up having so much meaning on an interpersonal level that I think you can class it as heroism.
Yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. Just acknowledging the breadth of someone's loss. It's not just flowers on the day, you know, it's not just flowers the next week. People never recover. It's
those people that go that little extra length, those people that choose to see things through. And often the challenges that the people in this book have faced are seemingly fucking insurmountable.
Yeah.
And you wonder yourself, how would I have gotten through that, if at all? And I think that's where the inspiring element comes in, is you're like, wow, they did it. They got through, or, you know, and isn't that life, just trying to get through all your traumas?
Incredible. So look, this book is, you know, we know it's going to be appearing in a lot of Christmas stockings this year all across Australia. What do you hope it will achieve for the people who read the book?
Well, to be as inspired, by these people's lives as we were, to want to do more, to realise that there is time to do more, and that we're not doing enough as individuals, and we're not focusing on sort of the right things in society in a way at the moment, because there are people out there getting things done while we're drowned in the media on all this negativity. And so personally, I hope it inspires people to want to be better, do more, give back, because that's certainly what it's done for me.
And I hope fervently that upon reading this book, a reader might be encouraged to reflect on the way they choose to respond to the challenges in their life, because I believe that from such adversity, magic can happen. You know, like you can turn something terrible into something triumphant, and I hope this helps convince us that every human is capable of doing that, and not. Ultimately, I want this to remind people not to dwell in their disasters.
Which is something that you guys as a family have been just paragons of. You know, what you guys did through all of your family tragedies has been inspiring.
I think you're only, at the end of the day, you're only a measure of how you respond to the to the adversities in your life, and if you can measure your response to the adversities, then you don't fall victim to the suffering.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Do you think that this year in 2020, do you think people are more willing to go out of their way for other people, or less? What are you seeing?
Well, it's a bit of a spectrum, isn't it? I mean, if you look at when the pandemic first hit, apparently everybody was selfish and being very individualistic. But that's definitely changed. I'm not sure where you're based, but it's a bit
Sydney.
Right? Yeah, it's a bit hard in Melbourne to work out what's happening anywhere, really.
That's right.
Because we're very isolated. We're locked down. We're doing our best to cope. We're putting up with sort of days of madness and struggle. And I hope that at the other end of it, you know, that a similar sort of thing happens, and that we respond in the way our heroes have to what's been happening, certainly down in Victoria.
So you guys, I think, were separated during the actual putting together of this book, because Hilde, you're in Melbourne, and Sam, you're not right now.
No, we did it together in Victoria, and I headed off just after deadline.
Literally.
So yeah, we worked on it solidly and had sessions a couple of times a week, and it was very personal and very face to face.
Yeah. Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah. We one of the because I've got reliability issues. One of the challenges was not damaging Hilda's reputation by failing to deliver on my bet. So we had to be really clear at the start that this wasn't something that I could come in and out of. Because sometimes I can be hot and cold because it's my nature. So I promised to be consistent and to deliver, and because these people were just so front of mind, and because I never want to upset or disappoint or fall short of my sister Hilda, I was able to pull out levels of consistency that I haven't achieved before. So it's not just I've gained not just a lot of understanding and insight through the process, but a lot of confidence too by being able to emulate my sister's consistency for once in my fucking life.
Yeah, Sam met every deadline, and yeah, it was a privilege to work with him, and I loved the way he constantly pushed for things to be the best they could be. So we had robust discussions, but incredibly warm, fulfilling, and just it was a wonderful collaboration.
So it sounds like, Hilda, of your many talents, you've got hero spotting. You've got bringing out Sam's best self. Anything you can't do.
She's a pretty handy prison officer as well.
My reliability issues. I love it. So tell me, now that you Hilda have had this amazing year, right? So you have published your first novel, which to wild acclaim, blistering success, and now your collaboration with your brother. What's next for you?
Oh, I mean, look, it has been a great year. I've faced something I always wanted to do. I took the chance. I did the work. I mean, I had beautiful encouragement from my brother, believe me, who continually sort of propped up my self-belief. And the floodgates have opened. This is something I've dreamt of doing for many years and repressed it, and it's just gone boom. And to have done 2 books in 2 years, particularly to highlight these people's lives and what they've done for me. I think of them every day. I'm in constant contact with them. It's making me better, and I'm halfway through my 3rd book, and I just feel like the world's a strange and unusual place at the moment.
And the 3rd book, is that more heroes, or is this more fiction? What can we expect?
Yeah, it's a novel. And,
fantastic.
I've got a new leading lady living firmly in my head. She's unpacked her suitcases, and she won't be leaving until we're done. But that doesn't preclude me from looking at other projects with Sam and sort of diversifying, because we've always managed to have many hats in the ring at one time, so we'll see what happens.
Very multi-talented family, huh? And Sam, you've had more careers than almost anyone I can name. So apparently you can act, you can dance, you can ride a unicycle. What's going to happen next for you?
I'm not sure. For the first time in my life, I'm not sure. I've always been a big planner, and I've always felt like I know where I'm going and what I'm doing. And I've usually been able to kind of map out, 2 to 5 years in front of me, because I'm normally running some decent medium to long-term plays. But for the first time in a long time, there's no barrels in the chamber. And that's really exciting, because that will mean that something like this will come again, because I think the truly special projects kind of just emerge. And I tell you one solid thing we'll be doing is following up on the success of our Dear Santa and Dear Dad books. Dear Santa was the 9th highest selling non-fiction book of its year, and a runaway success.
I remember very well.
Dear Dad followed and did well enough for us to consider pulling the ace out of our sleeve. So in time for Mother's Day next year, we'll have Dear Mum.
Yeah.
And we've already secured about 65 to 70 contributors. And over 60% of our contributors for this book haven't previously contributed.
Amazing.
We've had an incredible new kind of wave of support, and you know, we've got everyone from Australians of the Year to former prime ministers, governor generals, and so it's not just your usual splash of celebrities. We're going for a bit more depth on this one. We want it to have more heft, and I want to hear from a broader cross section of people with these letters. So I'm hoping that Dear Mum will be our third book of letters, and I believe it'll be our best. Absolutely.
Do you think that, for you guys, obviously your history with your mum is not, you know, a usual one. Is this a hard book for you guys to put together?
Hilde?
The concept of Dear Mum was a tricky one for me personally. I had mum for a lot longer than Sam, and sort of Sam's had to find out who his mother is by secret channels. It was tricky. It was tricky for me, and I was very determined not to contribute. But I have, and I'm glad I have. I feel like there's a bit of a weight off the shoulders.
Yeah.
Just because something's complex doesn't mean you run in the other direction. And I love the project. You know, I love the concept of Dear Mum. And I jumped my hurdles and faced them, and you know, I've been reading these letters, and I'm so fully behind the project, much more than I was before I wrote my letter.
Yeah. Oh, I'm getting a little tear. I'm thinking about my mum. I'm thinking about all the mums, and I'm really excited about that project. That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
And I can't wait. I can't wait to read it all.
Yeah.
I guess just before we leave, I want to leave all of our viewers and me too with what's something really simple that we can do to be more like these people in your book, more like your heroes.
Well, I think there's a part of these heroes in all of us, and I think sometimes we are reticent to act when we should. We don't act when we want to. We don't reach out to the stranger. You know, we don't give back to the community in the ways, you know we could, and we withdraw from that and we get distracted. And so I think it's in all of us, and I think, you know, a little bit of self-accountability, and asking yourself, I mean, one of the family maxims, and there are many, is, you know, have you done enough today?
Have you done enough? Yeah.
And, you know, if you're constantly asking yourself, have you done enough? Then you're constantly going to say no, which means you're going to be doing a little bit more. And you don't have to do huge things. You just, you know, small things. Yeah.
That's really lovely. That's really lovely. Well, thank you so much, you guys. I can't wait to start seeing these gorgeous little blue cloth, silvery, shiny, gorgeous things racing out of our warehouse. Everybody can get their copy of Heroes Next Door from booktopia.com.au. It comes out on the 27th of October. Thank you so much, Hilde Hinton, Sam Johnson. It's been absolutely delightful speaking with you tonight, and I can't wait to hear what comes next.
Thank you, and it's so cool for us to be a part of the Booktopia family. I appreciate being there, and thanks for having us.
Yeah.
You're very welcome.
Okay.